Good afternoon and welcome to special coverage of the Noor Salman trial here on clickorlando.com. I'm Bridget Ellison, and right now the third day of jury selection is underway for the trial of Pulse nightclub gunman's widow Noor Salman, As the trial develops, News 6 is bringing you the latest both on air and on clickorlando.com. Now, this morning, our cameras were rolling as Salman's attorney, Linda Moreno, walked into court. At this point, she is the only attorney in the Salman defense team we have seen since the trial started. Now, out there at the federal courthouse, keeping an eye on things, News 6's Nadine Yanis. We want to get out to her. She'll be in the courtroom for this trial. And Nadine, you've been noticing some things there from your vantage point there, and several potential jurors already excused this morning.
Bridget, it was a slow go in court this morning, and this morning's jury selection process really shows why 1,000 potential jurors got questionnaires and why the judge brought back 650 of those potential jurors to come back. And that is because he is just having a hard time this morning getting people who don't have that implicit bias, and it's going to be a long road this week to get that 12 plus 6 sitting on that jury who is impartial and fair. Let's take a look at some of the numbers from this morning. So there were 8 questioned today. Only 2 of them were kept, and this includes a woman who still has to see if a caregiver can take care of her mom. So it could only be down to 1 kept from this morning. But with those kept, that brings the total of potential jurors on day 3 of jury selection up to 15. That's less than half of the 33 that have been questioned since Thursday. The judge wants to get that 15 number to 60. So that is an extensive and a long way to go, and it's going to take a lot of time. And again, this really shows that even with the vetting process of getting out those questionnaires, that there's still going to be some people who have either close connections to Pulse, who have implicit bias. There's one woman who says that she watched some of the news coverage beforehand, and she says it's hard to erase things that you've already seen. She was excused. There was another woman who said that she had donated blood to Pulse. She was kept in the pool because she said she could set those aside. There's also another man who said that he has friends who served in the military and he already has some bias against the Islamic religion, and so because of that he was excused. So that just shows one after the other people getting excused and dismissed from this trial. Now, for the first time this morning, we heard something very interesting. One of Salman's defense attorneys, Linda Moreno, she had asked the judge about a social media post posted by one of the potential jurors who said, yes, I did visit the Dr. Phillips memorial right after the Pulse nightclub shooting. That juror was kept in the pool for now, but that really shows that there is some more research going on. And Bridget, I don't know if our legal expert can weigh in on this, but I'm wondering if the attorneys are doing more homework on these potential jurors than what we're seeing inside the courtroom here.
Yes, definitely, Nadine. A great point to bring up. And we want to bring in our legal analyst right now, Jason Johnson. Thank you for being with us. You're a federal attorney, also a local here.
Yes.
Yes? Yes,
I'm a partner with the Lowndes Drosdick Law Firm, and I've been practicing law in Orlando for almost 20 years. The interesting part of what she said about the defense raising the issue of someone's social media post highlights the fact that both sides have retained jury consultants. It's common in high-dollar civil trials and also in high-profile criminal trials that each side will hire consultants to help them pick the best jurors for the panel. And those consultants now have the names of the prospective jurors, and they've been going back through these jurors' social media posts, at least the ones that have been made public, to try to find posts that might give them some insight one way or the other, whether they want this juror on the panel or whether there's some reason to expect bias out of that juror that would exclude them. And it sounds like, by the defense asking the judge to ask some further questions about one prospective juror's social media posts, that there may have been some post that might tend to indicate some bias, and they just wanted to clear that up.
Right, and I think she said that the post pertained to them visiting a memorial, whereas many people probably visited at some point the memorials or visited the nightclub after all this happened. But what would maybe be more of a red flag social media post if we were to, be part of that consulting team looking at these posts?
Well, I think to your point, simply going to one of the memorials, maybe posting a photo of one of the memorials, it's not something that would indicate bias on that prospective juror's part. If you had, by contrast, say a post that said, "I can't believe this, we should fry anybody who's associated with Mr. Mateen. His wife has to be guilty, she had to have known." Something to that effect would show bias on the part of that prospective juror and probably warrant them being removed from the panel.
Earlier this morning in our 8:30 talk about the trial, we talked about how Noor Salman had given, a statement prior to all these proceedings, indicating her knowledge, her prior knowledge to what her husband may or may not have been planning, and how incriminating that would be moving forward in this case.
There are actually 3 separate statements that she gave to the FBI, and she was Mirandized prior to those statements being given. She signed away her Miranda rights. She also consented to a polygraph test being given. So she was questioned at one point, and they wrote down at her request what she said, and then she read back what they wrote. It, said these are my words, and then at the end she wrote, "I'm sorry," and that led them to question her further because they read that to mean that she had prior knowledge of what was happening. And at that point, she made some admissions, at least the government contends she made some admissions, that she knew before this attack happened what was going to happen. And so that, I think, is going to be the linchpin of the government's case against her, is that they have these signed statements from her which would indicate that she knew what was going to happen.
And we talked about the jury selection and this process of finding people without bias, even here in a town so heavily affected by what happened in this case. And when we look at how will this jury be treated once they get the people they need, do you think they'll be sequestered? Do you think that they'll be, sent off somewhere so they don't hear the coverage and know what's going on?
Well, there are going to be some instructions to the jury at the, before they hear any evidence, before they even hear opening statements. And the judge will instruct them that they're not allowed to view, read, listen to any media related to the case. They're not allowed to discuss the case with anyone, including other jurors that sit on the panel. I don't think that the court has any plans at this point to sequester this jury. It's certainly possible that it could happen, but with a 3-week trial, I think it's unlikely. I think these jurors will go home at the end of the day, and hopefully they will abide by the court's, admonitions to not view any media, not form any opinions, do any outside research, not visit the Pulse site. As long as they do those things, they can go home and lead a normal life.
Do you think that things will wrap up? That they are estimating, that the judge is estimating it'll take about 9 days to get the jury selected. Do you think we're on track so far?
Well,
3 days in?
We're halfway through day 3, and we've gotten to 15 members of the potential jury. The court wants to reach about 60 numbers before each side issues their peremptory challenges. The goal is to get down to a panel of 12 jurors and probably 6 alternate jurors. So you get to 60 and whittle that down to about 18 people. 2.5 days in, I think Judge Byron is going to do his best to get through the prospective jurors as quickly as possible and get to that magic number of 60 so they can begin whittling that down to get to the real jury.
Okay. Federal Attorney Jason Johnson, thank you for being with us again.
Pleasure.
You'll be back with us again tomorrow?
I will.
Okay, we'll see you bright and early at 8:30.
Thanks very much.
On clickorlando.com. Now, because this is a federal trial, again, we want to remind you no cameras or recording devices are permitted inside this courtroom. So News 6 and clickorlando.com have reporters there every day covering this trial, so they are the eyes and ears for us, letting us know what's happening. And we have a special page that details everything on clickorlando.com. Just look for the Noor Salman tab. You can also click on news and look for the Noor Salman trial tab there as well. Join us again tonight at 6:30 for another discussion. News 6 anchor Ginger Gadsden will talk with investigator Mike DeForest and News 6 legal analyst Mark O'Mara as jury selection continues today. You can watch that live here on clickorlando.com. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm Bridget Ellison.